The Book of Exodus. Its name means a going out or departure. It tells a story etched deep in human memory, a story of a people moving from bondage to liberation. This ancient text is more than just history, it is a profound exploration of the divine and the human. We journey back thousands of years, to a time of empires and pharaohs. A small nation, the Israelites, find themselves in a mighty kingdom, Egypt. What began as a refuge becomes a cruel prison. Their cries for help seem to go unheard. But are they truly alone? This is where our story begins, a story of immense suffering, but also of incredible hope and divine intervention. Exodus is a narrative of transformation. Our story opens generations after Joseph. He was the Israelite who rose to power in Egypt. His family had found safety there, but times changed. A new pharaoh arose. He did not remember Joseph or the good he had done. He saw the growing numbers of Israelites. He saw them not as guests, but as a threat to his kingdom. This new pharaoh's heart was hard. He decided to crush the Israelites. He subjected them to bitter slavery. They were forced to build great cities for him, Pithom and Ramesses. Their lives were filled with harsh labor, with bricks and mortar, with endless toil in the fields. The Egyptians showed them no mercy, making their existence unbearable. The pharaoh's cruelty did not stop at forced labor. He feared the Israelites' strength, their sheer numbers. So he commanded a terrible thing. Every newborn Hebrew boy was to be thrown into the river Nile, a plan to decimate a people, to extinguish their future. Yet even in this darkness a flicker of defiance remained. This child was Moses. Moses, saved from the waters, grew up in Pharaoh's own palace, an unlikely beginning for a liberator. Yet, his heart remained tied to his oppressed people. After an act of justice that forced him to flee, he became a shepherd in Midian. For 40 years he lived a quiet life, a life far from the suffering in Egypt. Perhaps he thought his past was behind him. Then, one day something extraordinary happened. On Mount Horeb, the mountain of God, Moses saw a bush, burning but not consumed, a fire that did not destroy. From within this miraculous flame, a voice called to him, the voice of God, the God of his ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He had seen the misery of his people in Egypt. He had heard their cries. God had a mission for Moses. Go, he said, go to Pharaoh, bring my people the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses was hesitant, filled with doubt. Who was he to undertake such a task? He was slow of speech, he protested. But God reassured him. He promised to be with Moses. Aaron, his brother, would be his spokesman. Reluctantly, Moses accepted. Moses and Aaron returned to Egypt. They stood before the mighty Pharaoh. They delivered God's message, let my people go. But Pharaoh's heart was stubborn. He scoffed at their God. He refused to release the Israelites. In fact, he made their burdens even heavier. The stage was set for a contest of wills, a display of divine power. So began the 10 plagues, each one a targeted strike against Egypt, each a demonstration of God's authority over creation and over the gods of Egypt. The Nile, the source of Egypt's life, turned to blood. Frogs swarmed the land, then gnats, then flies. Livestock died. Boils afflicted the Egyptians. Each plague was more severe than the last, a relentless pressure. Pharaoh's magicians tried to replicate the early signs, but soon they were overwhelmed. They had to admit this is the finger of God. Yet Pharaoh's heart remained hard. Hail rained down, mixed with fire. Locusts devoured every green thing. One final, devastating plague was yet to come. Section 5. Night of Deliverance, the Passover and the Great Escape. The 10th plague was the most terrible. God warned that the firstborn son in every Egyptian household would die, from Pharaoh's son to the son of the slave girl. But God provided a way of escape for the Israelites. This was the first Passover, a night of solemn observance, a night that would be remembered forever, a ritual of protection and remembrance. Each Israelite family was to take a lamb, a perfect lamb without blemish. They were to slaughter it at twilight. They were to paint its blood on their doorposts. The blood would be a sign. When the angel of death passed over Egypt, he would see the blood. He would pass over those houses, sparing the firstborn inside. They ate the lamb roasted with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. That night, a great cry arose in Egypt. The plague struck as God had said. There was not a house where someone was not dead. Pharaoh finally broke and summoned Moses and Aaron. He told them to go, to take their people, their flocks, their herds. The Egyptians too urged them to leave quickly. They gave the Israelites silver and gold, eager to see them depart. So the Israelites left Egypt. Section 6. Footsteps in the desert, the journey to Sinai. Freedom had come, but the path ahead was daunting. The Israelites found themselves trapped. The Red Sea before them, Pharaoh's chariots behind. Fear gripped them. They cried out to Moses. Had he brought them here to die? But Moses told them to stand firm, to see the salvation of the Lord. God was not finished with his miracles. Then God commanded Moses to stretch out his hand over the sea. A strong east wind blew all night. The waters parted. A path of dry land appeared through the heart of the sea. The Israelites walked through on dry ground. The waters a wall to their right and to their left. The Egyptian army pursued them into the seabed. But their chariot wheels clogged. God fought for Israel. Once the Israelites were safely across, Moses stretched out his hand again. The waters returned to their place. The entire Egyptian army was engulfed. Not one of them survived. Miriam, Moses' sister, led the women in a song of triumph. "Sing to the Lord," she sang, "for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has hurled into the sea." This was a defining moment of their salvation. The journey through the wilderness of Shur began. It was a harsh, unforgiving land. Soon the people grumbled, but God provided. Section 7. The Mountain of God, Covenant and Commandments. After 3 months of travel, the Israelites arrived. They reached the wilderness of Sinai. They camped before the sacred mountain, the same mountain where Moses had seen the burning bush. Here, God would make a covenant with his people, a solemn agreement, a sacred bond. He would make them his treasured possession, a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. God descended upon Mount Sinai in fire and smoke. There was thunder and lightning and a loud trumpet blast. The people trembled. Moses alone went up the mountain, into the very presence of God. There, God spoke the 10 Commandments, the foundational laws for their life together, laws about their relationship with him and with one another. These were words of life. The 10 Commandments were just the beginning. God gave Moses further laws and ordinances, instructions for justice, for social responsibility, for worship. These laws, recorded in the Book of the Covenant, were to shape Israel into a society that reflected God's character. The people heard these words. They agreed to obey them. All that the Lord has said, we will do. Section 8. A Test of Faith, the Golden Calf and Divine Instructions. While Moses was on Mount Sinai receiving God's law, the people below grew restless. 40 days and nights he was gone. They feared he would not return. They approached Aaron. "Make us gods who will go before us," they demanded. They wanted a visible symbol, something tangible to worship. Their faith, so recently affirmed, began to waver under the strain of waiting. Aaron, under pressure, gave in. He collected their gold earrings. He melted them down. He fashioned an idol, a golden calf. "These are your gods, O Israel," he proclaimed, "who brought you up out of Egypt." They built an altar before it. They offered sacrifices. They indulged in revelry, a profound betrayal of the covenant they had just made, a turning back to the ways of Egypt. God saw their sin. His anger burned fiercely. He spoke of destroying the people, but Moses interceded. He pleaded with God to remember his promises, to remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. Moses' passionate prayer turned God's wrath. When Moses came down the mountain and saw the calf, his own anger flared. He smashed the stone tablets, inscribed by God's own finger. The covenant was broken. Section 9. Dwelling among his people, the tabernacle and enduring themes. God desired to dwell among his people, so he gave Moses detailed plans for a portable sanctuary, the tabernacle, a place where his presence would reside. Every detail was specified: the materials, the dimensions, the furnishings, the Ark of the Covenant, the altar, the lampstand. All were to be made with skill and devotion from offerings given willingly by the people. The people responded with great generosity. They brought gold, silver, bronze, fine linens, colorful yarns, precious stones. Skilled artisans, Bezalel and Oholiab, were filled with God's Spirit. They oversaw the construction. Everyone contributed their talents. The tabernacle was built exactly as God commanded. A beautiful, holy place, fit for the King of Kings, a symbol of God's nearness. When the tabernacle was finally completed and set up, a cloud covered it. The glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses himself could not enter. This was a visible sign. God was indeed dwelling among them. His presence would guide them on their journey. When the cloud lifted, they would move. When it settled, they would camp. He was with them, leading them.